Minds receive this information about take us to a level of not saying no father son Holy Spirit. Hey,
Amen.
Kaleab, floor is yours. Yourself and
All right. I guess real quick, do you want me to share my screen with anything? Are they able to see? Like, I'm not sure what they're looking at.
if you have make the co-host into the you know what? I'm just gonna let
I don't know what'll be easier.
you. Okay, I'm gonna change the very good. It's so try to share your screen now. Let's see if it works.
Can you see that now?
Still loading, but we should be good to go. Yes, you can see your slides.
You can see the slides?
Yes, we can.
Okay. All right. I guess just for my sake, who do we have on the call? And this is an hour session. I have until what, 9:30?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's mostly deacons and young men who are potential deacons, and then we have a few sisters online.
Okay. Okay. All right, sounds good. So I'll go ahead and kind of introduce myself, just so that everybody knows where things. So first, I hope this fast is treating everybody well, and that it may be fruitful to all of us, especially this fast. So I'm glad to be here to discuss about marriage, and this is something that I truly enjoy. When Nardos asked me about this topic, as dear to my heart. So I was very honored to be here. So a little bit about me. My name is Kaleab. I've been happily married for almost 9 years now, come September. So been married in a relationship for almost a decade, which is unreal, but it's been a blessing. So I have a 5-year-old daughter. I love being a family man. And today, as you know, as our brother said, we're going to spend some time talking about how to prepare for an Orthodox marriage. So, especially nowadays, where we spend a lot of times on planning a wedding versus like preparing for a lifelong union with our spouses. If you guys know what I mean, it's a lot of times nowadays, especially in America. I know you guys are not located, I'm not sure where you guys are exactly located. People plan for the wedding, they plan about, the food that's going to be there, the guest count, the decoration, and the who's going to be there, kind of what is the agenda, what is the week. So people spend years planning for a wedding. Unfortunately, instead of preparing for a wedding, which is the difference. So Think about when somebody runs a marathon, you know, do they prepare the day before, right? They take month of preparation for that one day, right? So marriage is similar. So it's very important that events like this, that we take steps in learning about what is marriage, how do I prepare for a marriage, because what for a lifetime commitment. So, and to give you guys a background, even my wife and I, and after we got engaged, we took a 1 year course learning about marriage. So we went to our church father, our father of confession, for a whole year. And even for studying about marriage for a year, it wasn't even enough. There's a lot that we can learn. There's a lot of things that we can prepare. So I'm glad to see events like this happening. So I'll start with a question, and hopefully, maybe a couple of you guys could answer this question for me. But based on what you guys see online from family, from friends, or what your thoughts are, is good and healthy marriage possible? I'll just get a couple of you guys if you guys want to answer. Is a good and healthy marriage possible? Based on the stats, based on what you guys have seen in their family, like does marriage work? Do people get married and actually last for a year, or do we see a lot of divorce? Do we see a lot of breakup? Do we see a lot of things that happen within marriage? What do you guys think? I like class participation. I'm not going to talk for a whole time. Okay, I see somebody raising their hand, and it could be a yes or no. Go ahead, brother.
So if so, so if the husband is a good husband and the wife is a good husband.
I'm sorry, it's really hard to hear.
Um,
If if the husband is a good husband and the wife is a good wife, then I think yes, uh, um, a good marriage is possible.
Okay. Anybody else? Maybe one more person?
Yes. I also think uh, I also think a healthy marriage is possible.
Okay. Any of our ladies that are on the call?
Yes, I think so.
Okay. All right. So everybody thinks a marriage is possible. Well, I agree with you guys, but I have a caveat. All right. A healthy marriage is possible, but it's not likely, right? A healthy marriage is possible, right? But it's not likely. It doesn't happen by accident, right? A healthy marriage, just like you guys said, it is possible because God designed marriage, right? What God created is good. And that's what we read in the book of Genesis. Everything God created is good, right? But then there's a human nature of it. So that's why I say healthy marriage is possible, but it's unlikely. It won't happen by accident. The current divorce rate, at least in America, is about 45%. That's almost half the marriages that fail. So based on what we see on the stats, the 45% of marriages are failing. Is good and healthy marriage possible? It's possible, but only 55% of the time. You guys are in school. Can you pass your school grade with a 55%? That's an F, right? In school. The odds of a good marriage is against us. I'll give you guys a scenario. If I say everybody that's in the class right now, I will pay a trip for you guys to get on an airplane and fly anywhere in the world for free. And I said, I'll pay it. But I tell you, there's a 45% chance the plane might crash. Would anybody get on that plane? We wouldn't, right? So marriage is the same thing. We see 45% of marriages that are failing, right? But what we have to understand when it comes to these stats is marriage the problem or are we the problem, right? So I like to go with something that God designed. I don't think marriage is the problem. I think we are the problem. And that's what in the book of Hosea we learn. He said, my people are destroyed for the lack of knowledge. My people are destroyed for the lack of knowledge, right? Broken marriages do not prove that God's design of marriage is false, right? They prove that we as humans have stopped following God's design for what marriage is supposed to be. So the problem isn't necessarily marriage. The problem is us humans trying to do marriage our way instead of God's way, right? So the idea of how to prepare for a marriage, right? I was thinking about that and what, like, before you can even prepare, like, I think we're going to talk about 2 lessons today. What is marriage, right? Before we even prepare, I think it's important that we understand what marriage is. And then the second point that we're going to learn today is, okay, what should I do while I prepare for marriage? And then I'll kind of open it up for any Q&A depending on time. So the first question that we must ask is, what is marriage, right? A lot of people look at marriage as an event, right? I'm going to this event. Oh, there's a marriage this weekend. There's a marriage that weekend. So-and-so is getting married. We look at marriage as an event. But I think in our mind, we have to say marriage is a sacrament, right? So that's our first lesson. Marriage is a sacrament. It's not an event, right? We have to engrave, again, when the prophet Hosea said, he said, my people are destroyed for the lack of knowledge. We treat marriage as like just an event that we go to, but there's a sacrament. There's something happening. Yes, we see people getting married. Yes, we see 2 people, but behind it's a mystery. And that's what St. Paul said in the book of Ephesians chapter 5. He said, for this reason, a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and the 2 shall become one flesh. This is a great mystery, but I speak concerning Christ and the church. So marriage, holy matrimony is a mystery. Just like Holy Communion, the bread and the wine that transform into the flesh and blood of Christ. Baptism, it's not an event, it's a sacrament. It's the presence of God, where we see a child or an adult that's being baptized and they become a child of God, right? We go to a room of confession. God is present. So marriage is the same thing. Marriage is a sacrament, not an event, right? That's why it's done at the church, right? People say, like, the government, they try to tell us what marriage is. No court can tell you what marriage is. No government can decide how a marriage should be, right? God is the designer of marriage, right? The court, they can't perform a sacrament. Like, I can't go to a court and say, can you do baptism? Can you baptize me? We can't go to the court and say, can I do confession? No, we go to the church because all the sacraments are that God himself established, right? And that's what we read in the book of Matthew, right? When Christ said, they are no longer 2, but one flesh. Therefore, what God has joined, no man can separate. No man can separate. No court can separate, right? So again, marriage is a sacrament, not an event. And we, as people, we need to hold marriage to a higher standard, just like Holy Communion. Holy Communion is not something that we just show up on Sunday and partake. There's a preparation that goes behind it. Same thing with confession. There's a preparation that goes behind it. For adults that get baptized, there's a preparation that goes behind it. Same thing with marriage. Marriage, we need to hold it to a higher standard because it's a sacrament. In the book of Hebrews, chapter 13, this is what St. Paul said. And St. Paul wasn't married. And this is what he said. He said, marriage should be honored by all, right? And the marriage bed kept pure, for God will judge the adulterer and all the sexual immoral. So again, marriage is a beautiful sacrament that we should honor because it is created by God, designed by God, and it is something that the court doesn't decide. So it's for us, it's like all the other sacraments. So the question is, when people say, where did marriage come from, right? Marriage isn't something that the court decided, right? It's not a human institution. It's something that God himself established from the beginning of his creation. And we see that in the book of Genesis, chapter 2. He said, and the Lord God said, can you guys still see my screen?
Yeah, we can still see Genesis
Okay.
2:18.
Okay. And the book of Genesis, chapter 2, and the Lord God said, it is not good that a man should be alone. I will make him a helper comparable to him. So this is where God is designing marriage. And it keeps reading. And we keep reading. And the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall on Adam, and he slept. And he took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh in his place. And the rib which the Lord had taken from him, from man, he made into a woman. And he brought her to the man. And Adam said, this is not the bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman because she was taken out of man. And then, therefore, a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and that they shall become one flesh. And they were both naked, the man and his wife, talking about Adam and Eve, and they were not ashamed. That is marriage, right? As becoming one flesh. They're no longer two, but one flesh. They were both naked and not ashamed. And not just in a physical sense, but spiritually, right? There's nothing to hide. There's no secret. So our first lesson when it comes to marriage, marriage isn't something that we humans created. It's created by God, right? Just like all the other sacraments. The government can't tell the church what marriage is, right? So marriage is a sacrament, not an event, right? So that's our first how to become how to prepare for marriage is one, to understand what marriage is. Like, is marriage for me? And we need to also clarify, like, I know we're doing a marriage, how to prepare for a marriage, but we also need to understand marriage isn't for everybody. Like, all the sacraments isn't for everybody. You guys know that, right? Like, deaconhood, like holy order, even though it's a sacrament, that's not offered to everybody, right? It's only for those that are chosen to serve within the clergy, right? The sacrament of unction of the sick, right? It's that sacrament, even though it's a sacrament within the church, that's not offered to everyone. That's only offered to those that are physically sick, right? Same thing with holy matrimony. Even though it's a sacrament within the church, it's not offered to everyone, right? So we also need to, even though we're preparing for marriage, we also need to decide, once we know marriage, is this for me? Is this what marriage is how to become the right person, right? Now I know marriage. How do I prepare myself for marriage? Now I understand what marriage is. Now it's the preparation part, right? So our second point is become the right person before you look for the right person. You guys ever heard the question, how do I find the right person? I can't tell you guys how many times people come to me, whether it's in church or wherever it is, like, I'm looking for the right girl. I'm looking for the right boy. I'm looking for the right relationship. That's a famous question. Does the Bible ever tell us how to find the right person? Does the Bible instruct us how to find the right spouse, the right husband, or the right wife? There's nothing in the Bible that talks about how to find the right person. But the Bible is very clear on how to become the right person. So the question isn't, how do I find the right person? The question should be, am I the right person? Am I the right person? If everyone is looking for the right person, how's anybody becoming the right person? Think about it. We as individuals, we know the qualities we want in a woman, right? Or a female, they know the qualities that they would want in a male. But the question is, are you the person that are you the right person that somebody else is looking for? There's a true story about a daughter, and she was talking to her mom, and she grew up in the church and very dedicated to the church, but she went to college and had like a really, really tough time where she stayed away from college. She got into, drinking and partying, and she was very away from the church. And she graduated and she finally found a job, and she had a really good career. But she struggled with just a lot of sinful acts, whether it's the partying, the drinking, those type of things. And she found a man, right? He was perfect. He was in the church. He was actually getting ready to be ordained as a deacon. He taught in the church. He taught in a Sunday school. It was her perfect, like it was a dream. It was a guy that was like in her dreams, like a dream guy for her. And she goes and tells her mom and said, I met a guy. He's perfect. He's in the church. He serves the church. He has a great job. He's graduated. He has everything. And the mom said, why would a guy like that want to be with a girl like you? And that's the truth. A lot of times we find the right person, but am I the person that he would want to be with? Am I the person that she would want to be with? So it's important that